Welcome back to the podcast. Your host, Hunter Twisdale, co-host Austin, and then I got a very special guest, Miss Karolina Stanzik. What's up,
Yeah,
Carolina? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are blessed.
doing great.
So, just a little bit of what this is going to be about. So, Carolina went through the Army thing as well as me and Austin, but she had a little bit different of a story than Austin and I. Carolina, would you like to share a little bit about what happened with you and what's going on?
Yeah, so I joined right around the same time as them, in February of 2021, height of COVID vaccines. They pretty much started mandating them. Unlike Hunter and Austin, I ended up getting the vaccine, not really knowing. 1 month into service and suffered 3 heart attacks, a stroke, countless other issues that were results of the vaccine. And then last year, I got a pacemaker at the age of 24.
Mm. So, from what I understand, you were one of the first people that the Army actually acknowledged and admitted to being harmed from the vaccine. Is that correct?
I think I am the first in all of the military to be formally recognized as a vaccine injury. There's been a few after me. Um, and even if they did recognize it, they wouldn't put it in official memorandums.
Right. So, when you were, can you just kind of walk us through a little bit of like what happened when you were given the shot,
Mhm.
when you first knew that something was wrong?
Right. So when I first got the shot, I was super healthy, 21 years old, multi-sport athlete growing up, 5 sports year round, and I was experiencing a lot of chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, headaches, things I'd never really experienced. And then blacking out with really high heart rates. I didn't know what that was like, and that was one of my first symptoms that I had to experience. And then you pair that with the second shot that they made me get after all of those symptoms, and it got worse where I was having like neuropathy, burning, tingling throughout like my whole body.
Golly, man. So when that happened, what was the military's like initial response? Was it like did they deny it, ignore it, try to cover it up? What was that like?
Pretty much super early, they were saying, like, hey, this is not normal that it's this bad early on. They didn't say it's uncommon to have side effects, but they were saying, like, this bad was not normal. And my leadership at the time, they didn't really know what to do with me. We were a smaller unit in Virginia, and they were like, I mean, here's some ibuprofen, go home, sleep, rest it, and whatnot. And then you ship out for basic. You're subjected to that medical treatment, and it just only progressed from there, where they started denying everything.
Right. So during that time, I understand you're a believer as well. Um, Spiritually during that time, did you feel abandoned by God, or did it like could you sense His presence through the whole situation?
My relationship with God beforehand, I had a relationship with Him. I don't know how personal it really was, though. I think that it only grew deeper, and more personal. I never really was upset with God. I never really questioned, like, God, why. I was more asking God to take the pain from me, and asking for breakthroughs and miracles and things like that. And kind of just seeing, like, where's His grace and where's His hand in all of this suffering that I was dealing with. Kind of expecting it to come. I just didn't know when.
Right. I got you. So a little bit of a different question. So, you mentioned that the military they acknowledged your injury from
Mhm.
the vaccine. What did that look like? How did that make you feel when it happened? Like,
Yeah, so that's a topic that a lot of people didn't really understand with my case. I did not fight for them to acknowledge vaccine injury. That wasn't our first question. We were asking that any injury I had gone through that was in the line of duty to be tied to service. At that point, I was unlawfully discharged for 19 months. And so we pretty much fought them for the full 19 months, went through a board of corrections, obtained that line of duty, which then when we received it, it had said vaccine injury. We were super confused. We had gone back and asked them, like, did you guys mean what you said? And it pretty much was like, shut up. We don't want to talk about it. Go away. Like, whatever the paper says, go with it. And we're like, I don't think whoever wrote this memo really knows what they just said.
Yeah, that's they. I don't. They didn't realize at the time that I don't think they realized at the time the amount of scrutiny that was gonna come back to bite them, because they didn't acknowledge it for many people. You know.
Which, I mean, quite honestly, killed people, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
It was
Um,
like by the grace of God. It was straight up a miracle. There was no other explanation for how we got that acknowledgement.
right. So uh, in Romans 8:28, it says God works all things for good, even the hard things. So, have you seen anything good from coming from this pain or anything like that yet?
Well, I deal with people on the daily who have come to me and been like, "Hey, I needed to hear your story." I had one guy come into a clinic and they were like, "Carolina, tell your story." And I'm facing the ceiling. I didn't get to see his face, but I heard him in tears, and he had seen my article like 3 days before. And that being the first person to meet me in person before anything else, like they'd seen my article, then met me in person, and it wasn't planned. And I gave him, just a couple tidbits of advice and just kind of from my experience. When he left that day, I had found out he walked in that day contemplating suicide because of his reaction to the vaccine. When he left that day, it completely changed his life. And he's a lot better now. And so, I mean, despite what I've been through, I've been able to, be a testimony to others that like it's okay, it's gonna be okay. Like down the road, like things will get better. And a lot of people have found hope in just like my story and what I've experienced.
Amen. So that suicide thing is definitely that's very prominent in the whole COVID situation. I knew a lot of people that maybe they didn't do it, but they were contemplating it. And I do know some people that did take their life. I don't know that that's what the reasoning is for, but
Right.
it did line up with the timing. So it's very possible that that could have been the reason behind their doing it. So I'm
Mhm.
sure that that did that go through your head at any point during that time?
Many, many times. And it seemed like every time it went through my head, the urge and like the ideations got stronger and stronger. And I just at some point was like, literally, God, you have to take these thoughts out of my head because I don't know when it's going to become too overwhelming. Um, like obviously it's not of God and it's not me, you know, to think that way, but a lot of people don't understand most times that ideation is circumstantial and we have to find the things we can control and what we can't control. And that was one of those things. It's like the medications I was on, it was causing that, pain was causing it. And just there was a lot of different things that I really needed to do to get those thoughts under control.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. So you met Austin at your unit, correct?
Yes. It was
Tell us
super early
how,
on.
yeah, how did y'all meet? Like how did that work out?
Oh
Austin, you
man.
go for it because everything's a blur to me.
No, I totally understand that. You were on some days it seemed like you were on base with us, and then other days you were gone out doing testing or somewhere across the country. And um, but we always knew that like people like yourself, or I don't know if you remember Gonzalez, he ended
His
up.
face. Have you reached out to him again?
I just found him on Facebook actually and added him as a friend, so I'm going to try to message him if he accepts it.
I need
But
to
I
get in
know
contact with him.
he had similar circumstances of he had, I think they actually did classify him as having myocarditis or pericarditis. And he was one of the guys that, just be walking around and all of a sudden passed out. Yeah, just dropped down. So I hope to connect with him again soon as well and see how he's doing. But Stanzik and I, we went to the same base for basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, but we weren't in the same company. So we didn't know each other until Fort Huachuca. And then we didn't actually meet until I got moved into the platoon. I'll say the bad kid platoon, where everybody was getting kicked out for stuff other than having morals and being ethical human beings, I'll say.
Yeah.
So we were with all these other folks that, for whatever reason, wasn't just because of the vaccine, but, drugs, alcohol, that sort of thing.
We'll
So
say
we
more.
met. Yeah, exactly. We met in
It was
Naples
pretty
too.
bad.
Yeah, and it was every day was so different and uncertain of what was going to happen because I remember looking at the frag order that had come out regarding the vaccine and the steps that they were supposed to follow, in order to properly discipline us, whether it started with the counseling and then initiating a separation. There was only supposed to be about a 5-day window of when they were supposed to make that decision, and it ended up turning into 4 months for my case. And so there was no ever like clear cut and dry answer on what they were supposed to do. And that was the most frustrating part is that we were just sitting around wondering what was going to happen. And like Karoline said, and many others, is like those dark thoughts of suicide, of how am I going to get out of this situation other than taking it into my own hands sinfully. Those crossed my mind too because it didn't look like there was a way out. Like we might have been UCMJ, court-martialed, whatever, because that's how serious they were with trying to get people to take it. And so it felt like our life was on the line, either bending our knee to something we didn't agree with or kind of taking our life into our own hands. And
Wow.
so I'm right there with you. And Hunter, I didn't tell you that yet either, but those were thoughts that I was having too. And so I understand how serious it is, and it still is for people.
Yeah.
And but Carolina, like you've been washed by the blood. I know that you've been through so much, and you're still fighting it. But
Yeah.
like you said, your testimony is bringing so many other people peace and clarity on the decision they made, or prevented them from making. So just appreciate you. And yeah, it was December that I actually left Fort Huachuca, finally separated before HBL, and
Wow.
and that was that.
Yeah, I mean, HBL was crazy because, everyone left and they were like, you're not going on HBL. And I was like, why? And they're like, you're a medical hold and all these things. And mind you, my roommate at the time in that platoon was sitting there on the phone telling me how she joined the military with heart conditions and lied about it and then got out on full retirement. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. She goes, I want a new roommate because I don't believe Stanzik's not going to say something. And I'm just like, you guys got to be kidding me. I literally did not have any of this stuff. This girl gets everything for lying. And I did everything the right way to the best of my ability, ethically, all that stuff. And this is the hand I got dealt. And I mean, honestly, when you ask, like, what are the positives that came through this, like the community and the people that were around me and stuff. Ryan Dunham, you remember him by chance,
Yeah,
Austin?
I've been talking to him recently. Actually, we've kept
Yeah.
in touch.
So, I mean, he was one of those people who reached out to me all the time. I'd see him in sick hall and, he was fighting the religious exemptions.
Yeah,
And I just remember the countless times he would find me female battle buddies to take me to church, or, I wasn't allowed to leave the barracks because of my medical status. And they like held that over my head, but they're like, you can't leave. And so he would bring me groceries and stuff. Just like those small things, but they were big gestures to me. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to take credit for them. Like, but you did it and you made an impact.
yeah. No, Dunham is awesome, and we've been in touch recently too. And it'd be great to have him on, to hear his experience because he did file a religious exemption, which is something I didn't do. And that was just, my own personal decision. But he is such a great guy, and we need to hear from him
Yep,
as well.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my story is a little bit different. I joined in July 27th of July in 2020,
Okay.
and uh, it was right when COVID started. Like in the beginning, they didn't have a vaccine or anything yet. I was just kind of there. Had to wear masks to do PT, all that stupid junk. I got through. I went through basic, and then it was OSIT, so it was basically basic training the whole time. Got my cross rifles, went to airborne school, all that stuff, and then I got to my unit, and that's when I started having issues. I was That's when the vaccine was kind of being pushed out, and that think I got out of airborne around January, February, and that's when they started pushing the vaccine, and I was not going to get it. I told them I did not want to get that. I don't feel comfortable. I had a whole list of stuff on my last podcast. Me and Austin, I kind of showed him my gigantic list of reasons that they didn't care about. But uh, my wife was actually so I went a whole year at that unit. It was about a year or so, and didn't have any issues. I was at the unit just doing my own thing, and then they stopped pushing it for a while, and then they came back and was like, "Hey, you need to get it or you're getting out." And then we got activated to go to Afghanistan for that little, I don't even know what you want to call that. That was awful. The evacuation out of Afghanistan, and my unit got
More like a
activated.
retreat. It's a retreat.
It was that was something, dude. We left.
A lot of our buddies got deployed right after training too.
Yeah, they left so much stuff over there for that junk, man. Anyways, um, they wouldn't send me because I didn't get the COVID vaccine. So my platoon sergeant and platoon leader was like, "Hey, you can go if you want. If you want to go." I was like, "Absolutely, let's go." He's like, "But you got to get the vaccine." I was like, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
Turned out there was a lot of people that went that didn't even get the vaccine. My leadership just sucked. Uh, but they started pushing people out, and then towards the end, it was April of 2022 when I got kicked out, and they told me that I was gonna. So from what I understand from talking to all the medical people, any underlying condition medically, including pregnancies, should still be covered under the military's insurance until
Yeah.
it's over, right?
Mhm.
Well, my wife was pregnant like 8 months and some odd days, about to pop, about to pop. And they kicked me out in April, at the end of April, took my insurance away. So I had to go scramble to find out how I could get insurance for my wife had our first baby. And I was like that, those mental thoughts. I didn't know what to do. I was in the kind of that same boat of right before I got out, I didn't know what I was going to do because I had to be able to pay the bills for my family. I had to be able to make sure that they were going to be taken care of. And it was like, is it really worth it? Should I go ahead and get the jab just so that I know that my wife and kids are taken care of? But I was like, no, it's just not. I'll figure it out. I even came into the kitchen one day and was like, hey, Virginia, that's my wife's name. It's like,
Aw.
let's grab all of our stuff and let's just go.
Yeah.
She was like, "What?" I was like, "Let's just leave." She's like, "You can't do that." I was like, "I know, but let's do it." I didn't do it, but that's the kind of stuff that was going through my head because I was kind of panicking. I didn't let anybody see it on the outside, but I was. So I completely understand with the whole mental situation for sure.
It's a tough road to be on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Not to mention
so
how lonely it felt at times too, because there wasn't very many of us, especially with our mindset.
dude,
Right.
everybody treated me and my unit like I was just a burden. So do you believe that the people who push the mandate will be held accountable by man or by God?
By God, 100%.
Yeah,
That's what ends that. I mean, that's what matters the most. They will meet their maker one day. It's not, we carry out his mission and things like that. But justice is not in our hands, vengeance is not in our hands. That's him. And so, you spread love, you spread truth, you spread like education and things like that. And then the rest is in his hands. You really have to give it to him. It's not easy by any means because I have every reason to be mad and be like, let's hold all these people accountable. But we cannot go ahead and cross the threshold of ethical and, all those things. You can't ruin someone else's rights and cross over that just because we're upset with what they did. Two wrongs don't make a right.
right. So have you found peace and forgiveness towards them even though they have not apologized?
Pretty significantly, I have. I've found that forgiving and kind of understanding each person's scenario differently has helped me a lot. Um, each person, each leader, each provider who screwed me over and screwed everyone else over. I mean, we were all in different shoes, all in different circumstances. Um, so everyone handles things differently, and it's not that it makes it right, but if I was in their shoes, could I have done it better? I don't know.
Right. So one thing that I don't know why it popped in my head, but so when I was getting forced out of the military, there was a guy in my unit. I'm not going to say who his name is because it doesn't matter, but
Say
he
his
got.
name.
I'm not going to say it. He got in trouble for he popped hot on a drug test for cocaine, and he
Wow.
didn't get discharged.
Double standards.
He got demoted for like a month and then got promoted again back to where he was at.
I mean, we had some crazy stuff in, Charlie Company was terrible.
Yeah, it was nuts, and like you said, the double standard. But it was a sign of the times too, of the military culture at the time, which I think it's got a lot better now. Obviously, we're not in, so I can't see it and say from a firsthand perspective. But the culture was beyond whack. I know that they wanted to have us get the jab so bad that after the first refusal, we had to watch an educational video on why the vaccine was good for us and how it correlates to military preparedness. And then we were asked again if we wanted to get it. And depending on our refusal, we would be receiving a counseling. And then I believe it was the third time, it was like three strikes and you're out kind of rule. That's when we got our GOMAR. And after that, your career is over. There's no promotability. We couldn't like graduate, anything like that. And I was reading the frag order again this morning too, and just looking at the verbiage in there of how there's even hints of it saying like this is like it's a trial, or and then going back and saying that it's lawful and that sort of stuff. Um, but then even towards the end of it, it talks about exemptions, and the only two types of exemptions that were possibly going to be approved were medical and administrative. Religious exemptions were never even on the table. They did not care one bit about your religious beliefs, and that's one reason why I didn't want to go through the hassle of submitting one, and that my no was no. But it's just freaking crazy that we went through it, but it was on purpose because I think our lives, obviously they'll never be the same. But it's all, for our testimony and to bring light to the world and to glorify God through it all as well. So,
Yeah. So I thought it was very comical that during that time they were really pushing the whole right like the my body my choice for like the abortion stuff, but then as far as the vaccine, it's like no, it's not your choice about that.
It's everyone else's body now.
Yeah, it's that is just baffling to me, and I don't understand how. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
they always said, and that's the one excuse I always heard was your government property, so you get to do what we tell you to do.
That's just not true though.
Well, I mean, I didn't understand, I always heard you sign your life away. You're their property. You lose all your rights when you get in. That's the, understanding when you sign that line. And even civilians, that's what they believe. They're like, but you signed the dotted line. Your rights still apply to you. The Constitution still applies to you. And they fail to tell us that. And they really just brainwash everyone to believe the same thing because it's easy to rattle off the tongue, your government property. Even if you get a sunburn, they'd heckle you for getting a sunburn because, oh, you
Yep.
damaged government property. But did I not damage government property? If I'm really government property, did I not damage it by putting that shot in myself and destroying my health?
Yep. Absolutely. I agree because there's it. The very first thing you say when you enlist in the military is you say how you want to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That means we are still covered under the Constitution of the United States, but they want to act like we're just military property and that we're not covered under any like rights or law. We're not slaves. We're still people, we're just serving our country, you know?
Right.
Well,
And that's
because
why, yeah, go ahead.
no, go, no, 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 go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say how this was a big, ploy for them to get free thinking, patriotic individuals out that, do stand for truth and that aren't just going to go by whatever they say unlawfully and not to just be their little robots or their little minions that, you know, go along with every little thing they say, no matter who it harms.
100%. I mean, even then, it's like it's an institution. You're seeing that the institution is trying to uphold like these, budgets or these standards and status quo. So it didn't matter about were we actually a fighting force, but more like what are we showing to the world about our status quo and our reputation of like what politics we're involved in and all that stuff. Can we get hip with the culture? Can, the LGBTQ stuff, can we include all of this stuff? You have like generals wearing dog masks. Like, come on now.
Dude,
It's an abomination.
the new recruitment videos for the Army and Marines are still the same as they've always
They've never,
been.
yeah, they've never changed.
They don't care. They're crayon munchers. Like I'm gonna lay in the dirt and nobody can do nothing about it. But Army and Air Force and all of them, they're doing these dead gum recruiting videos, and it's just like, it's okay, you can join. It's like, no, we don't want pansies in our military. We want people that want to fight for our country. You know.
Right. Right. It's like you want to talk about military effectiveness and preparedness. That stupid army ad that they had about the girl with the two moms. How does that have any correlation to being in combat?
It has none.
Zero.
Literally.
So Austin and I both, our original goal when we went into the military was to make a career out of it, but we lost our careers by refusing the vaccine. Do you think that this whole experience exposed a deeper spiritual battle that's going on in the military and the nation?
100%. It's literally spiritual warfare.
I absolutely agree, 100% as well. What do you think, Austin?
I mean, if it's not that, then what is it? That's it altogether. We saw it firsthand. You have people, we said no to stuff, or like Carolina, like your circumstances too. If people were just willing to deny what was going on or gave us lip about it and just start like manifesting like a little demon, that's your answer right there, if it was spiritual or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Carolina, if there's someone out there watching this video right now that's suffering or feels alone or betrayed, what would be something that you would want to say to them right now from one believer to another?
I would say, stay close to Jesus because he literally held my hand in the middle of the worst of times. I recently started talking about, when I drank my butt off the night before I was supposed to get my pacemaker surgery. And they didn't know that, but they ended up canceling the surgery the next morning. I didn't know why. I was pissed off. I was like, come on, guys. And then, they rescheduled it to a week later. Well, now a year down the road after that happened, I'm realizing his hand was in it all. And even though the doctors didn't know and I didn't know what was going on and everything, he knows and he's there and he's working even when you don't see it. And so to like hold on to your faith and keep going and every step forward is better than a step back.
Absolutely. So, what are you hoping and praying for now in terms of your health, your future, and how God might use your voice?
I mean, really a voice of reason, a voice of change, to have an empathetic heart for people going through similar things, but also just, let's see policies change. Let's implement, different policy changes. My case obviously stands pretty tall when it comes to all of this that happened, the medical side of things and just fighting the military. I don't want me to be the only one who's seen success despite what's going on. So, the policies, but then also on top of that, that like people go back to God, go back to their morals, go back to their ethics. And then with my health, obviously, I would love if I could be back to normal. Right now, my biggest concern is my spine. But other than that, it seems like things are getting somewhat better.
Good deal. So, do you feel called to be able to speak out more, and your story can help bring healing and accountability to others? Do you think that that's something that you want to do?
I mean, that's what I do all the time now. So I just keep doing it. I hated public speaking. I hated doing all that, but now it's what I do. And, every day, every conversation is different.
Absolutely. I love the fact that no matter what we like, we might feel uncomfortable with public speaking. God will put you in a situation where you're gonna have to public speak. I think that's hilarious. Kind of like how he did with Moses. How Moses was not very good at public speaking, but he's like, well,
I
sucks to
didn't know.
sucks to suck, bro. You're gonna do it.
No.
So, is there anything you'd want to say directly to the church, the body of Christ, and how we need to support those who've been hurt, just like how we have been?
Um, I think, first we need to love each other. People have attitudes, people have pride. To lower the pride, lower the attitude, and really just be there and hold hands and put ourselves in someone else's shoes and walk through the trenches with them, because if you don't know where they're going to end up. So really that's what the body of Christ needs to do.
Right. Austin, do you have anything else you want to add, bud?
No, man. I mean, if anybody's watching this and they're in a similar situation as Stanzik, myself, Hunter, don't be afraid to reach out to us. There's a giant military back pay lawsuit going on that I would highly recommend everybody be a part of if you've been wrongfully separated. And then, if you've had health issues or you don't know what to do or you want to pursue litigation, anything is like that. Karolina, she's been through it. She knows the ropes. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if there is anybody watching that has been in this situation and would like to share their story, I mean, if you go on my YouTube, you'll see all of my videos that have my link. It has my phone number and things like that. You can reach out to me or Austin or any of us, and we'd love to help get your story out there.
Yeah, let's chat. Let's chat about it and do something like this.
Carolina, you have anything else you want to say?
I have nothing else to say.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope to have more in the future.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks, Karolina.
All right, y'all, like, subscribe, and comment, and God bless.